Today we're giving context on close-ups and camera angles. My name is Weston. I own a film production company and I'm a director.
My name's Drew. I'm a director of photography.
Yeah. So today we've got a question from Angels and Acid, and he asks, how do you go about choosing which parts of the dialogue will be close-ups? So Drew, it's kind of more of you as you go through the shot listing.
All right. So how do you choose when you're going to go close? This is a question.
Yeah.
Well, I guess there's a few different ways you can do this. One is you can just get coverage while you're shooting and just shoot it every way.
Yeah.
You know, you do your wide, you do your medium, you do your close up, and then you can, that way you have the option to do whatever you want when you get to the edit. I'm a fan of the idea of that. The problem is then you're doing 3 different setups. It costs more money, more time. But you might save time in the edit. Maybe not, because then you got to watch it all. So basic rule of thumb is, you know, you go close when you want people to pay attention or if it's going to be an important moment. So as I'm reading through a script, I pay attention to what's going on in my own head. And what am I seeing? And if something really pops out to me in that dialogue, or it's a really important moment that the audience needs to know this is important, that's when you want to get close. Some directors will wait and they'll hold back. And then once they go in, that's where you know.
You really know.
You know, some other directors aren't as
choosy.
Picky, yeah.
Yeah, and they, you know, every now and then they cut to a close-up. We had done a shot test for a movie that we're working on, and we were testing to see kind of what it would look like if we shot it on longer lenses. Try to give it a little bit more of we were kind of going for like an intimate feel, and we realized it just felt wrong because basically everything became a close-up. It was really interesting observation, just kind of how that ruined the mood of the whole film, in our testing at least.
I heard from one director of photography that I was listening to, is like what he likes to do is he gets to frame up the person, and then if he feels the camera's like in another room or something, like it's way too far away, that's when he'll switch the lens and to be wider. And that way he likes to be close. He likes to feel like we're intimate and in the situation. That's why I think, everybody's starting to switch to a much wider,
wider
lens length. And so I think that's kind of where we're going as well.
Yeah. And I would almost say for this question, it's sometimes not about when to go close up. It's kind of when not to go close up. It's kind of like a really good friend of ours who was a drummer. He was telling us that he learned that the most important part about drumming is learning when not to drum versus when to drum. And it's kind of the same thing here. Of close-ups are really powerful, and if used incorrectly, it kind of just takes out meaning of the film, of the subject, of the characters. But when used correctly, it can be an extremely powerful tool.
And if you're worried about it, just shoot it.
Yeah.
And then that way you have it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, that way you can do it in post. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think kind of like what Drew said, it does cost a little bit more to shoot that type of coverage. There's a really great interview by Samuel L. Jackson where he talks about kind of his dislike for coverage, because one, it kind of shows that you don't really have a decision made yet. You're waiting to make that decision in post. And also it can be really tiring for your actors to react the same thing again and again, to try to replicate it every single time at different lens lengths. I think for us, we typically try to have that decision made through the shot list. Yeah. Kind of a little bit more outside of the close-ups for you, Drew, kind of what's your process of, you get a script, how do you start taking that script into what shots are you getting?
You know, the process is different every time. I like to read a script like I'm reading a book, and I pay real close attention to what I am feeling and seeing within my own head. And then there's kind of a translation process. Okay, well, this is what I see in my head. What does that mean in camera speak. You know, okay, is this going to be a wide? Is this going to be a medium, tight? How far away am I? How are we moving through space? Sometimes that works. I like to take that as far as it will go, and then I start to have to start coming up with ideas for, okay, how can we capture this moment? What kind of move can I do to capture whatever that feeling the writer was trying to put forth, I guess. You know?
Yeah. So what's your first step? Because I know you definitely try to keep it towards like that first step is as simple as possible so you can just get it on paper. How would you describe that first step, and how is that kind of different from what we have later in the process before filming?
So I like to just write a list. I just start with numbers and I just write exactly what's happening, pretty much.
Shot by shot.
Sometimes it's really specific. It'll pop up and be like, okay, I want to do a slide on this, and I want to slide with them really low to the ground, and this is how we're gonna how the audience will feel because of that. But sometimes when I don't know what's going on and I just am trying to get through the list, I'll just write exactly what happens. Character says this, and so it doesn't necessarily tell me what I'm going to do with the camera, but exactly what I need to capture in that moment. And then I'll go back and figure out, okay, how can I capture that? Or we'll go into a shot block and with the actual camera figure out how we need to see that.
Yeah. And for you, how have the shot blocks kind of helped in that process of, after you get it on paper, what do you notice when you go into the shot block or pre-visualization?
A shot block really helps you know if something's going to work. You might have a really good idea in your head, or it might edit together really well, and then you'll get out there and realize that this was not a good idea. It was a terrible idea. Or you'll realize, wow, that was even better than I thought. So and it's really the cheapest way to figure that out, because if you get to the point where you're shooting with the actual actors and everything's set up and the lighting, you might find yourself in a lot of trouble because, oh, wait a minute, this isn't working. I can't, God forbid you get all the way to the edit and
you
it's
realize
not
it
working.
Sucks. Yeah.
And I mean, I know that actually does happen. You know, big productions do, they call them reshoots all the time. It's just so much cheaper and easier to do that first. And then it just, you know, you start simple, handheld camera, you
Your
get the
phone.
idea through, and then you do a refined shot block with the actual equipment and see if that's actually working or if it's actually doable. Do we have the equipment to capture that? It just really kind of smooths out the whole process.
And the refined shot block is something we don't always do, but it can be very helpful. One of the things that, from like a Hollywood side, that I realized would have been helpful if they had done that, in the movie La La Land, they talk about how they had choreographed the whole intro scene with them on the interstate, and everybody gets out and they're in a traffic jam and they start dancing, and they had done the whole choreographing with an iPhone. And then they got on set. I mean, they're on set. They've got however many actors they have, all the cameras, the techno crane, and things like that. And they realized the techno crane can't move as fast as the iPhone can, because it's, you know, a 60-pound, 100-pound setup on top of this, you know, I think it's like a 5,000-pound crane or something or more. And it's like, holy crap. So they have to retime their choreography because the techno crane can't move as fast as someone on an iPhone.
I can imagine trying to teach all the dancers and stuff. And you've got it all memorized and perfect.
Oh, yeah. So it's like, that's where, like for us, shot blocks and then refined shot blocks where you shoot it with the actual equipment can be super helpful, because then you're figuring out, oh, you know, is this movement even possible with the actual equipment? Or do we need to get extra equipment, or do we need to, you know, build something different or revise something? So then it's like, after refined shot block, then what do you do in terms of getting it ready for a shoot?
I mean, I not too much.
I guess that's true, yeah. Because that's where Jason
kind of where
and
it gets handed off to the assistant director at that point. But that doesn't mean I not keeps going through my head. The hardest part at that point is you've got this beautiful shot list. It's being open to new ideas in the moment. And, you know, the idea is to try to cut down on too many new ideas on set day, but it's still nice to have a little bit of wiggle room. And especially if a problem comes up and something isn't working, or the light's not, or it's like a gray day where it's supposed to be a sunny day or something, organized and ready to go for shoot day. And so for us, we try to keep where collaboration is always open on set, but we try to make sure the collaboration is done in the shop block. That's the best time to figure out angles, experiment, get all that stuff done. That way when it's on set, everybody basically already had all their input expressed, and so there's less input on set and more just getting stuff done, so we can stay within time, within budget. And you also have I always feel there needs to be one central mind in control of everything, which should be your director, so that there's not too many ideas floating around, not too many hands in the bucket, because it can go out of control pretty quick, especially on something as big and complex as like a full feature film. So going back to Angels and Assets question, I think kind of the best way is, how do you choose which one is a close-up? Experiment with it. Like, shot blocks are really a great way. Once you edit that shot block, you'll quickly realize what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And that's the whole point of when you're making a movie. It's really just about the feel, what feels right, what feels wrong. Watch professional movies. You'll see they have very kind of specific patterns about when they choose to go into close-ups, and you can mimic that through your own shot blocks prior to getting on set and shooting. So any final thoughts? No. Just get out there and test it. So thank you so much for the question. If you guys have film production related questions, be sure to head on over to context.comv.org and submit your question there. We look forward to answering more film production related questions and seeing you on the next Questions in Context.